I've always loved autobiographies, even of people I don't really know or look up to, because I find the concept of turning our own life into a story so fascinating. An autobiography is made up of life stories. A life story is an experience that has taught us a lesson that we're going to tell our kids one day, or a memory that we think is cool enough to make people see us differently at a party. They're the memories that we keep as a reminder of the moments when we were most ourselves, when we fulfilled our potential, when we were the most courageous, the luckiest, or the most humble. And we're always looking to add more life stories to our collection. When done right, an autobiography isn't just a random compilation of stories. It connects each story to the next to fit a narrative or teach an important lesson. It sounds shallow, and I hate to admit it, but chasing life stories is a big reason for why I do most things I would normally be uncomfortable doing. It's why I ran a marathon. It's why I gave a speech in front of my school. It's why I started this YouTube channel. It's also why I want to go skydiving and swim with sharks. Most recently, it's why I went to Malawi. On my first day in Malawi, I watched a sunset. I've spent about half my life chasing life stories. I think most of us do to some extent. On the second day, we donated toothbrushes to a group of elementary school children in a refugee camp. And upon seeing a toothbrush, an 11-year-old boy held it up and said, "This is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." Our current lives are never enough for us. We move to big cities to try to find people or moments that we think are going to change how we see the world. Like when that guy takes a drug in Limitless for the first time.
I was blind, but now I see.
I sometimes find myself trying to create a life story out of the moment I'm currently living in. I feel myself analyzing how there could be a beginning, middle, and end to this story, and what lesson I could have learned from it, all while loosely playing a character in the moment. It makes me feel like I'm distancing myself from my own life.
Everything that I've read, praise the Lord. Worship Christ with the best.
When I think back on all the life stories I have, I find that I don't have enough. There's almost never been perfect stories in my life. Stories that don't contradict themselves. Stories where I don't need to exaggerate certain parts and leave out others in order for them to fit the narrative I'm trying to create. If only I could just put myself in the right moments, maybe my life stories would be so much better. On the fifth day, I met a man named Innocent Magambi, who had spent most of his life as a refugee. He now had lots of money and could pursue a career and even fame as a political figure by moving to a different city. Instead, he stayed and tried to help others like him. I may be the only one who thinks like this. I don't even know if this really makes sense, but I'm slowly realizing that I don't really have aspirations for my life. I have aspirations for what I want the story of my life to look like. Here's what I mean by that. Let's say we have Timmy, and Timmy wants to be a doctor to help people. Ishan over here also wants to be a doctor, but not just so he can help people, but so that he can add a chapter about being a doctor to his life. It's like I started seeing things from an outsider's perspective. I'm constantly asking myself if what I'm about to do would make a good addition to the story of my life. On the sixth day, I met a boy who was about my age, and I asked him what he wanted to be when he grew up. He told me that for a lot of people where he lived, the only goal is to survive and hope that their kids have better lives than they do. On my last day in Malawi, I watched a sunrise. There's this quote that I saw a few months ago and haven't really understood until now. All that is transitory is but a metaphor by... I'm not even going to try to pronounce that name. It's basically saying that anything that's temporary in life has a deeper meaning. So basically everything in life has its own life story because everything is temporary. But if that's the case, then there's really no such thing as a life story. There's just life. We turn our lives into stories by exaggerating or hiding certain aspects. But I think that takes away from what makes life so special and unique. Contradictions, random events, and vastness are words that describe life, but are also what ruin stories. Autobiographies are fascinating to read, but in a way they're just as fictional as the Harry Potter books that are sitting on my shelf. Of course, I'm saying all this in the most figurative and symbolic video I've ever made. This video is an intentional story. It has a beginning, middle, and end, and it has layers and themes. It feels unhealthy when I look for stories in the moments I'm living in, but it's fun to reflect on my memories and turn them into stories. But most importantly, it's a privilege to chase stories, and it's a virtue to resist temptation altogether.